You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Welcome in, all my Stanley Cup champions, to another round of RBLR Lightning here at RBLR Sports. My name is Eureka. With me on the top line, again to talk about some Bolts hockey, are my line mates. First and foremost, Jake Ricker from Bolt Report. What's going on, my man? How are you doing, sir?
I am doing fantastic, Eureka. We're getting closer and closer to some NHL hockey getting back underway, so I'm looking forward to that. We had a surprisingly very busy free agency, which I'm looking forward to chat about with you guys today.
And of course, we also have Chris Glazier. Chris, my man, how happy are you? We cut some fat. We brought in some guys, like Jake was saying. How else are you doing this week?
Doing good, man. Trying to stay dry. Had a lot of rain yesterday, so just trying to stay dry, trying to stay out of the floods. Just enjoying that summer rain we always get. So everything else is good, man, and I'm definitely ready to talk about some free agency and some Lightning hockey.
Yeah, Tampa summer's the only place where you're wearing shorts, flip-flops, and a rain jacket. So it's it's a wonderful place to live, and it's a wonderful time to be a Bolts fan. And Jake, you had mentioned there had been a lot of action, man. You look at the transaction list, and it's just full of things that happened within a few days since we had last spoke. The biggest of them all is a Tyler Johnson trade. We had talked, during the season, during the kind of post-season stuff about what they're going to do, and they finally have done it. Tyler Johnson and a second-round pick are now in the hands of the Chicago Blackhawks with the defenseman Brent Seabrook. So it's kind of like the end of two eras I've seen was posted. You talk about Tyler Johnson and what he's meant to the Lightning, and Seabrook, obviously, what he's meant to the Blackhawks. What do you feel about this trade, and maybe any last parting words for Tyler Johnson on the way out?
It's funny. We've been talking about a Tyler Johnson trade for what feels like forever. I remember making videos about it last year when he got sent down to the minors. We thought, okay, this is it for Tyler Johnson. And sure enough, he stuck around, though, and helped us win another cup. And it is finally official. He's gone. I saw this trade first on Facebook. And when I saw it, I'm like, great, just another one of these crazy Facebook post again. And then I happened to check Twitter and was like, oh, they weren't kidding. This actually happened. Listen, Tyler Johnson was huge for this team. He did a lot for this team. He had a lot of big moments with us, and it's sad to see him go for sure. But, that's what they call a cap casualty. It's just the unfortunate reality that you have to deal with, especially when the cap ends up being a flat cap for a year or two, and you have such a good team on your hands. The trade overall, it's a good trade for the Lightning. It works. They have to give up a second round pick in order to get Tyler Johnson off the books, but it clears up cap space for them. And it only costs them second round pick. So it's a good trade overall. The funny thing about this is you mentioned Brent Seabrook coming back, and that is going to create it created a whirlwind of confusion when it first happened. Because obviously Brent Seabrook has already retired. He retired back when he was with the Blackhawks, and that's why his contract has been sitting on long-term injured reserve. And basically JBB is being a wizard again and playing the rules to his advantage. He's going to put Brent Seabrook on LTIR, which gives the Lightning cap space. And there was a whole bunch of confusion with people saying, oh, well, the Lightning created an extra $1 million in cap space now. Oh, the Lightning had the same amount of cap space as they would if they just traded Tyler Johnson outright. Oh, the Lightning actually have less cap space. It's very confusing. But at the end of the day, the way it all works out is, basically the Lightning have the same cap space as they would have if they just traded Tyler Johnson outright. They're just operating in long-term injured reserve, which can potentially have some negative effects in that I'm not going to get into it because it's extremely complicated, but basically, your overages or bonuses can turn into overages next season and all that good stuff. So it is a little bit of a, most teams try to avoid operating in long-term injured reserve, but at the end of the day, it cleared cap space for the Bolts, which was good and was needed. So bummer to see Tyler Johnson go, but a good trade overall for the Bolts.
Yeah, we'll get into some of the cap relief that they got into and what they've been able to bring in because of it. But Chris, Tyler Johnson, I mean, he was a magic man at one point in his career, just flying around, 5'9", a fury on the ice. But now he is in another place, man. So how do you feel about TJ and any maybe favorite memories that you had of him?
Obviously, TJ has been a huge part of this team. He was part of that triplets line that was so phenomenal that year, and they gained that nickname, which I thought was pretty cool. That was something I've definitely never seen, especially for the Lightning. So I thought that was cool, and I'm glad he was a part of that. And unfortunately, it's business is business. So it was his time to go. We had to clear up some cap space, and like Jake said, I think he pretty much pointed out all the good points. JBB keeps working his magic, which is awesome. So and I will miss TJ. I think he's obviously not been TJ the past couple years, but like I said, that fourth line really helped us out in the playoffs and was really underrated in some games. And TJ had some big goals. As far as memories go, I probably the one he scored against Pittsburgh a couple years back to send this game back here, and unfortunately we lost the next game. But that big overtime goal he scored to win that game, and I was hoping the Lightning could pull out that series, but they didn't. So. I have a Tyler Johnson shirt. He was one of my first, new shirts that I bought when he got to the team. So, I'll always keep that in my memories and probably keep that shirt and just, keep it in the closet for old time's sake. But I wish him nothing but the best. And unfortunately, he's going to Chicago. Not one of my favorite teams. Probably one of the more hated teams for me in the league. So that part kind of stinks. But I hope he has a good rest of his career there for sure.
Yeah, I mean TJ. I had the opportunity to meet him quite a few times, and he was always a very nice dude. And sucks that it's just the business of the NHL that happens. But would love to have seen him go to Seattle, his hometown, and maybe give me a reason to buy a Seattle sweater. But yeah, but overall, I guess one other question, Jake. Maybe this is good for you, man. Is there a non-zero chance that maybe to just piss off everyone on Twitter that Seabrook comes back for the playoffs?
If Seabrook comes back for the playoffs, it will officially break the internet. That would be absolutely. But no, that is not going to happen. He is definitely retired, and is not coming back. So but the only thing we're going to have to deal with is hearing that more over the cap jokes, because technically we are again over the cap and operating in long-term injured reserve. But you know what? I hope he comes back. I hope he does, because that would, to my enjoyment, be hilarious.
Can we at least get the social media leak of him in a full contact sweater at a practice? And then just maybe that would just break the internet just by itself. That'd be awesome.
Honestly, it would. The Lightning should do that. They should just be like, hey, who's that player down there with no number? Who's that? That's weird.
All right. Well, let's get to guys that actually will be on the ice. There was a flurry of kind of re-signings and free agent additions that have happened since we last spoke. The biggest of them, if I have to rank them, you guys could tell me if I'm wrong or not. I think the first and biggest that we'll bring up is Braden Point signing an 8-year contract extension. So not quite an addition, but definitely locking up Braden Point for way past the current window here. What do you feel about Braden Point, and does he deserve an 8-year contract extension?
I think Points definitely lived up to the hype for sure. I think he could be the leader of the team for sure. He could definitely represent the C. Obviously Stamkos is probably limited on his time here soon. So I think barring another big injury to Stamkos, he'd probably end up calling it a career. So I think signing Point was huge. Point's done nothing but prove to us that he can be a great leader. One of the better centers in the league. He's got to be a top 3 center in the league in my opinion. But yeah, definitely worth the money. I'm glad to see that signing, and I think he's definitely got a really, really good future here with the Lightning.
Yeah, listen, 9.5 million too is a great bargain for him. It's right at where everybody else is with Kucherov and Vasi, and I mean it's technically 9 years when you really think about it because it's an 8-year extension which kicks in next year. And Braden Point could have gotten easily 10, maybe more million on the open market. He has turned into a superstar. He's been breaking records, breaking his own records in the playoffs. He nearly set the NHL record for most playoff goals in a row. He is just on fire, and he is definitely the future of this team. He is a very young, bright star and has a lot of potential to him. And Chris makes a good point. Stamkos, he's getting a little bit older up there. I think he's still got a couple more years in him, but when that time does finally come, Braden Point's going to be the next superstar to step up after Stamkos is gone. So, especially at the center position anyway. So, great to get him locked up at 9.5 million too. I guarantee you that contract looks even better in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I would think also that there's probably a renegotiation after about 3 or 4 years, just to keep that cap number. Because I mean, you're working on a average cap number, right? If you're basically you're distributing that over the 8-year span. If I have that correct, I could be wrong. It's kind of a fun game to go through and read the rules of cap management and things like that, but. The next guy I'll bring up, Chris, Zach Bogosian, coming back to a 3-year deal with the Lightning. He spent last year with the Maple Leafs, but took a pay cut. He could have got more than the $850,000 that it averages out to be for his cap hit. But this is a guy who, at least what I've got on paper, a penalty kill specialist who did really well, kind of as the third pairing there in Toronto. What do you have to say about Bogosian and him spending a little bit of time away from the Bolts, but ultimately returning home?
I think it's definitely a good pickup. We picked him up. We had him a couple years ago, and he played pretty well for us. I know he was struggling a little bit there in Buffalo, and he came over and actually played pretty well for the Lightning. He settled in, so at least now he's got a feel for our system already. He already knows. He's already been here. He knows some of the guys, at least on the team, that he's played with before. So obviously, I think that's a good deal, especially losing guys like Savard. So obviously he's not a Savard, but someone's got to replace him, and obviously we got to keep ourselves under the cap. So. I think it's a great signing for what we can get. He had that big play to Coleman, last year in the bubble for a big playoff goal where the diving Coleman was born. So I think that's one of those big memories you won't forget about Bogo. So I'm definitely glad to have him back, and I think he'll fit in fine with the team again.
Jake, how do you feel about Bogo returning to the Bolt sweater?
Oh, I love it, and I think a lot of Bolts fans love it too. They were super excited to see him back. He loves this team. His family loves this team. So, and you get him on a cheap contract. He's a right-handed defenseman as well, which the Lightning desperately need help at. We've talked about that before. And like Chris, you mentioned, losing David Savard was a bummer for the Lightning, but Bogosian helps fill that slot, and having prior experience on this team is a huge help to him. I know I saw a lot of people joke that Bogosian got his day with the Stanley Cup and then was like, crap, I need to go back to this Tampa Bay team. What did I do ever leaving these guys in the first place? But it's good to have him back. He's going to provide some great depth for the Lightning, especially, depending on Cal Foote, if he's able to step up into, that NHL role this year, like he unfortunately wasn't able to for us this last season. He can step up into that role, or he can just provide depth and be the guy that slots in when we need him. So definitely good to have him back on the team. I think he brings a lot, and already knowing the system and liking it here, that's important. I think a lot of people don't realize how important enjoying where you're playing at it can do, because if you change the scenery can do a lot for a player sometimes. So like Chris said, that happened for him in Buffalo, and hopefully it will happen a little bit again here as he comes back to Tampa.
Yeah. Well, and we had talked about when we got Savard at the trade deadline about how much these guys needed a defensive help. But another area that we've been looking at for help, and that's backup goaltender. And Jake, I'll start with you here. A guy that you've said you're pretty high on here is Brian Elliott signing a 1-year deal. What are we missing on Brian Elliott that we don't already know?
Yeah, I like this signing a lot. I know a lot of people were not huge fans of McElhaney for the longest time. I tried to defend him as much as I could, but listen, I get it. So the Lightning were looking for a new backup goaltender, specifically a cheaper backup goaltender. We have him for under $1 million, so that's really big, especially in our cap situation. But stats wise, at least from the last season that when he played with Philadelphia, he's pretty similar to McElhaney's stats. But then again, keep in mind McElhaney played for the Tampa Bay Lightning and Brian Elliott played for the Philadelphia Flyers, so he's a little bit better than what I think McElhaney could offer to us. And I think him behind Vasi, I think he could take on a nice little workload to help him out, and I think he could be a very helpful backup goaltender for the Bulls because they're going to have a lot of back-to-backs to play this year. I think some other teams have a couple more than the Lightning do, but there's a lot of back-to-backs this year, so having a good backup goaltender is going to be important, especially if you want to finish up higher in the standings.
Yeah, Jake, Chris, do you think that Elliott's going to get a little bit more time on the ice? Is Vasi eventually ever going to let another guy come in and play during the regular season, or is this just another way to kind of keep the payroll low in an area that you don't really need that much?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think, obviously the Lightning have played more games than anyone in the past couple years because of the way the seasons and obviously because of COVID. So I think our guys are going to I think that it's going to catch up to them eventually. So I could see Elliott maybe getting some more time this year, giving Vasi a little more rest. But obviously Vasi's Vasi and we all know he wants to play. So him taking time off is going to be probably hard for him to do. So I think signing a guy like Elliott's a great move. He's a good veteran. McElhaney obviously struggled last year, but it's obviously good to have a backup goalie that you can kind of put some trust in. I'm hoping we can see Elliott, kind of early in the season, maybe in an early game to just kind of get a feel for him, see what he's about. His career goals allowed is 2.53, 91% save percentage. So, I mean, that's not too bad for a backup goalie. I'll take that. But yeah, I think you could definitely see him have some more time for rest wise for Vasi this year, just because back to a full season, like I said, the past 2 years have been a lot of games for Vasi. So, but then again, Vasi is Vasi, and he does things that we don't expect him to do. So he might not want it to ride the pine for a little bit and give that time up. So I think you could see a little bit of both, but I mean, overall, I think it is a good signing for the price we got him for.
Yeah, in worst case, you can just have him suit up in Vasilevsky's gear and just go out there and not let anyone know that it's not Brian Elliott. Well, sorry, I always have jokes. I don't know why I'm in a jokey mood today, guys. Well, two guys, I don't mean to put them together to diminish their role, but Cal Foote and Alex Barboulay are two guys that we had, Chris at least in the beginning of the season, we had spoken about. These younger guys coming in, playing some in the minors, and then coming up for the Bolts here. Both of these guys have signed for multi-year contracts. Do you see either Cal Foote or Alex Barboulay playing any time in the minors, or is it going to be that they're a Bolt to stay now?
I think they're a Bolt to stay with the way the team's going. I think ABB had some time last year, and we saw how well he played in his couple games up. I think Cal Foote definitely wasn't what I thought he was going to be. I had high hopes for him. Maybe it was just rust. I think he's got the talent. I think he's got the hockey IQ to play professional hockey. So I think it could just be about him settling into that role. Maybe getting some more time will be good for him. Maybe let him make those mistakes and learn from his mistakes. He got sent down kind of not quick, but I guess the Lightning really didn't have time to mess around last year with a shortened season. So I think it was more important to try to go for that cup back to back. So I think with a full season, I think we'll definitely see more Foote in the lineup. I think we'll see more of a rotating defense this year, obviously losing Savard. So I definitely expect for him and ABB to definitely get some quality time right away, because they got that experience last year, and they're both really two good, highly potential talented players that can be on the ice and play professional hockey. So yeah, I would definitely expect to see them both up with the Lightning for sure.
Yeah, Jake, how do you feel about these two young guys maybe expanding their role with the Lightning, or is it just going to be these are going to be bottom of the roster guys for at least one more year?
they're going to be a key element to the Lightning's success next season, I think. You lose guys like Blake Coleman, Barkley Goodrow, Yanni Gord. Um, so you lose that bottom six, and these are the guys who are going to need to step up and take into that role. Not even necessarily the Blake Coleman, Yanni Gord line. That was our third line. There'll be some other guys that step up into that, like Ross Colton, for example, who's already got a full year under his belt and played really well with the Lightning. But these guys are going to need to jump into ABB specifically on the power play and that fourth line, maybe even the third line. So taking that next step for them to stick around at the NHL level is going to be very important, I think, for the Lightning. Every Stanley Cup winner, you have players that are playing at the top of their game on every single line. You can't just have a very good top six and win the whole thing. The teams that make it the furthest are the ones that are the deepest. So ABB and Cal Foot will definitely be super important for the Lightning. So I think they're going to make a large impact. ABB, I have the most faith in, just because Chris mentioned he definitely had some success. He's a little bit of a slower learner, I would think, than some other guys. You look at Ross Colton, who was able to jump up and make an immediate impact. ABB takes a little bit longer to get things going, but he still has a lot of big potential. And we kind of talked about Cal Foot a little bit earlier. So he's, another guy that he's got a lot of potential there. Wasn't able to quite make that jump from last season, but I have no doubt with the Lightning's development program and how they've worked with these guys down in Syracuse that they'll be able to make big impacts this upcoming season.
Another guy who I think is going to make a pretty big impact, and a guy that has been on the opposite end of the love spectrum for the Lightning, and that is forward Corey Perry, who signed a 2-year contract. Jake, talk me through this, man. We have to actually cheer for Corey Perry now?
Yeah, I know. This one surprised me when they did it. I was not expecting the Lightning to go after Corey Perry. Lost to us with Dallas in the 2020 Stanley Cup Finals. Lost to us against us with the Montreal Canadiens in 2021, and he is the new definition of if you can't beat him, then join him. So, yeah, it's when you look at the basics of it, Corey Perry is a very grindy, tough guy to play against. He's one of those fourth line guys that you would much rather have on your team than have against you. So, and we got him on a $1 million per year kind of deal, 2 years, $1 million each. It's a good contract. It's a cheap contract. It helps round out that bottom six for the Lightning. It's a good signing. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of Corey Perry, myself included. But like I said, if he's going to be out there playing, it's better to have him on your team than it is playing for the other team. Unless it's like a guy like Tom Wilson, then that's just no there. But I digress. But yeah, so it's a good signing. It's a good pickup for the Bolts, and it'll be interesting to see how he fits into this Tampa Bay system.
Yeah, I mean, is it, Jake, is this kind of one of those things where if he's on your team, you love him, but if he's on another team, that he's the most despised guy in the world?
I think, yeah, for the most part, it's exactly what it is. I mean, again, I said Tom Wilson earlier, but it's the same kind of thing. Capitals fans love Tom Wilson because he's plays for their team. So, some people maybe can still not like the guy and just, no matter what team they play for, even if it's for their team. But I think for a majority of people, that's definitely what it is for Corey Perry. And I guarantee you, guys like Andrei Vasilevsky are going to be very happy to have him on his own team, so he doesn't have to worry about punching him in the face at the goal crease. Because if you remember, those two got into it in the Stanley Cup Finals. So the team for sure will definitely prefer to have him on their side because he is not fun to play against.
Yeah, Chris, this is what I was going to ask you. Is this the kind of aggressiveness that this team? I mean, we won 2 Stanley Cups, but you're always looking at what are other teams going to do now. Is this a toughness that they're adding? Is this a mentality, or is there some other thing that you think the Lightning want out of Corey Perry here?
I think it's definitely a blend of all of them, because when we lose guys like Gaudreau and Gord, we're losing those grinder kind of guys that can get in front of the net. So I think Corey Perry is going to fill in a solid role. I mean, he's a veteran, a guy who's been around the league for a while, 36 years old. So I think he's definitely going to fill in that role. I think it was a big signing. I obviously, like Jake said, you'd rather just have him on your team than play against him. So I think he's gonna fill in very well. He used to be called Scory Perry back in the day when he was on Anaheim with Ryan Getzlaf and them over there. So obviously, I don't think he has that skill in him anymore because he's gotten a little older. But you know what? We'll get these veteran guys that want to come play here now because we're a winning franchise, and these guys want a shot at winning a cup. So you can get these kind of guys now where you can kind of get them for a decent deal, and you can get a good veteran guy in there. I think it's a really good signing. I think he's gonna fit in very well, and I think we're gonna see. I think you'll see an impact right away with him for sure.
Jake, is there anybody? I mean, there's a number of guys that they wrapped up as well. We just kind of went over the highlights here. Is there any one of the 10 something guys that they had signed either on two ways or one ways that you'd like to point out before we move on?
Yeah, real quick, I want to jump back to Corey Perry
Okay,
before
yeah.
I get to that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I thought about this. Think about this. Two things. One, imagine you check, someone like Nikita Kucherov, and then you have both Corey Perry and Pat Maroon coming at you to defend their guy. That's one positive for sure for Bolts fans. They've got grit. There's no question about it. And the other interesting thing is we now have a player who has won the last 3 Stanley Cups in Pat Maroon, and a player who has now lost the last 2 Stanley Cups. So I'm not sure how that all works out, but I think it's a net positive result for the Lightning. So those are just some funny stats to think about there. But a lot of the other signings they made were all basically depth signings to bring guys back and round out that AHL team. The only other one that I would maybe mention that we have not talked about is the signing from the guy from Colorado, and I'm going to try to pronounce his name, and again, I apologize when I inevitably mispronounce it, but it is Pierre Belmore, I think his name is.
Okay.
Again, I apologize if I mispronounced that, but he's another depth guy. He can score some goals. I think he played a very good kind of more gritty guy again, like in Colorado. I don't know how he's going to fit in with the Lightning. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on him to see how he does. But the Lightning signed him to a cheap contract, which is good, and he rounds out that bottom 6 for the Lightning after we lost so many guys from that bottom 6.
Yeah, he was a guy that played a couple years in Vegas. He's kind of at the end of his career. I mean, I won't say end, but he's going to be, I think, 36 years old this year. But played a couple years with the Avalanche, and he kind of gets around. He's decent plus minus over his career, so it's like at least in the last 4 years with Vegas and Colorado, which have been very good teams, he has been a positive contributor to those teams. So that's pretty
He's
good.
the type of guy that I could see if a rookie plays really, really well and we don't have a spot open, he's the kind of guy that could get taken over from, like, a rookie could take his spot. I doubt that happens because of how many guys we lost, but that's something too. But he's a cheap signing. He's a very low risk signing for the Bolts.
Yeah. Chris, was there anybody else out of like Kachuk, Radish, Sean Day, a bunch of these other guys? There was even a trade for Spencer Martin's gone. Was there anything else that maybe caught your eye before we move on?
How about Andre Schuster coming back? Shoestring Schuster. No, I mean there's nothing great about that. I was never a big Schuster fan. I thought it was funny. Him and Killorn were always joking around and having a good time together. So I saw Killorn posting some old school pictures of him and Schuster together. Schuster's got that big old gap in his tooth. So yeah, I think it's cool to bring him back. I don't really know how much playing time he'll get, but at least we're getting a veteran guy like once again who's already played on the team. So I thought that was cool to bring him back. I wasn't a huge fan of him, but right now I'll take it. I'd rather have some guys with experience on our team, just like Bogo coming back. So I think overall, I think the Lightning have actually done a really good job with what we were working with, and I think the Corey Perry signing and I think the Bogo signing are going to be the 2 biggest ones in my opinion. I think Corey Perry is definitely going to stand out, and I think he's going to fit in very well with the team. So I think I'm most looking forward to Corey Perry on the team and seeing how he settles in and fits into one of those lines, because the Lightning have been pretty good at bringing guys in and getting them into our system and working out very well. So I have all the confidence in Cooper and the guys to figure out a good role for him to play on our team.
All right, I guess the last free agent that we should talk about is Ross Colton, who is the last among all of the restricted free agents that the Bolts issued offers to. What is the latest on Ross Colton? Do we expect there to be resolution, or is this thing going to meet arbitration here in about a week and a half?
Yeah, so Ross Colton's a guy. Obviously, the Lightning want to get re-signed as soon as they can because of the big role he played for the Lightning in the Stanley Cup final, and I'm sure his agent in JBB were hashing it out in the contract negotiations because Ross Colton's side's like, hey, look, he scored the game-winning Stanley Cup final goal. He was a huge part of this team. He deserves a nice big contract. And JBB's like, hey, I'm trying to stay under the cap here, so help me out. But I definitely expect it to get resolved. I don't know about before arbitration, because these things usually take a while. But our arbitration is August 16th for Ross, so we'll get him signed. We'll get him on the books. And the Lightning don't have a ton of cap space left to play with, but I think JBB can definitely work it out to where it'll get done at the 16th as the latest.
All right. Well, I was gonna say is there any bad will? Do you think, Chris? Is there anything, or is this just business being taken care of behind closed doors here?
I think it's just business being taken care of. I mean, why would Colton want to leave? I think he's got a good shot to start and get a lot of playing time. He's already played for us last year, coming up and having a big season. So I think it's just business being business, and I think it'll get taken care of, and I think he'll be on the team.
So what I wanted to do is go through a few of the guys that will no longer be Bolts and just maybe get a round of reaction out of you guys. Jake, let's start with David Savard. I think he's maybe the second most important of these guys. He's the most important of the guys that I'll list here. Savard was only with us since the trade deadline, but was at the time we had big hopes that he was going to be maybe that big defensive upgrade that the Lightning thought they could do to raise their profile defensively and add a little bit more grip there. You see what it's called, a recovery right there.
That was nice. That was nice.
So how do we feel about David Savard? His short time, but he's got a ring. Hey man.
Yeah, hey, this one hurts the least just because, like you mentioned, Savard was only with us since the trade deadline, so he never played that many games, and it was a shortened season too. So even then, still less games than what it would have been in a regular season. But I like Savard. I really love the trade when we made for him. I think he's a cool guy. He's got a great beard. Let me just give him props for that. But. It's a bummer to see him move on, but obviously because of the cap, he just can't make it work. But definitely one of the least hurtful ones, I would say, because again, he wasn't here for that long. He was a guy that when we first made the trade, we gave up a lot, but the Bolts knew what they were doing. They're like, listen, we did this with Coleman and Goodrow before. It worked out great for us. Obviously, it worked out great again. But it was funny because I think it took Savard some time to get used to our system. And to be fair to him, he had a lot less time than some guys like Goodrow and Coleman did because they had that huge gap when the NHL got put on pause. So it definitely took him some time to fit into the Lightning system, but he started to pick things up quickly once he got into the postseason and then ended up being a huge part of that last final goal to put the Lightning over the top and win their second Stanley Cup. So, it's a bummer to see him go. I think he really could have fit in well with the Lightning now that he's gotten some time here. But, I hate that he's going to Montreal. That's a little bit of a bummer, but, hopefully he succeeds. And, hey, he got his ring, so I'm sure he's a happy camper.
Well, not only does he have a ring, he's got a new 4-year deal, $3.5 million in the bank, baby. So that's definitely something the Lightning were not going to compete with there. But Chris, our thoughts on Savard's quick time here, but pretty impactful.
Why, Savard, get out the door, man. Good luck in Montreal. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was a good signing. It was a good pickup for what we needed to get us, through the season, a shortened season, a good veteran defenseman to fill in a role that Lightning were struggling there on on the defensive side of the puck for a little bit, where it was we saw giving up a lot of odd man rushes, a lot of turnovers. The PK was struggling there for a little bit, so I think it took Savard a little time to settle in. But I think when he did, the trade definitely proved to work out. So I wish him nothing but the best. It sucks he is going to Montreal, but that'll just give him some more time to hang out in Tampa and play some games here, and we can get some chirping going on back and forth, and talking about winning another cup this year and him not winning another cup. So I think it'll be cool, to see them play each other again. But overall, I'm happy for him, and I think he helped the Lightning. I think he really did. I think he played a big role. I don't think a lot of people saw it because he wasn't scoring 20 goals a game, but he definitely filled in the void that we needed to win the cup.
Yeah, and I kind of go back and forth between Savard and what the team needed him to do versus Blake Coleman and kind of what Coleman has done in a lot longer time span and meant more, I think, as one of these kind of roster, I don't want to say roster filling, but they're kind of the middle of the pack, bottom of the pack guys that we brought in cheaply, but he definitely overperformed, I think, his expectations. And that's Blake Coleman. Blake Coleman getting a 6-year deal with Calgary. He's also crossing the border over to Canada at just about $5 million. Jake, what do we think about Coleman and his amazing family pictures that he's been taking over the last couple years, and what he's going to do in Calgary, man?
Yeah, I'm more bummed over Coleman than I was Savard. I loved Blake Coleman. He was an awesome part of this team. He's got a great personality. Fans love him. He's got the two most legendary goals, or two of the most legendary goals in Lightning playoff history with his Superman diving heroics
wow. Yeah.
that he had. So it's a huge bummer to see him go. I'm very glad he got himself a nice long-term contract at $5 million per too, which is not too shabby whatsoever.
Yes.
There was no way we were gonna be able to afford that. And honestly, listen, I love Coleman. I don't know if he's worth $5 million. So, but good for him to go out there and get that pay raise. He definitely deserves it. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. He put a lot of work in, especially with Tampa. But definitely a big bummer to see him go. He was one of the players that I just held out hope that they were going to be able to bring back, but was just not possible in this cap era, which is the unfortunate part about this. If this was back then, in the earlier days of the NHL, we could have had everybody back and created a super team, but unfortunately, it's just not the way things work. So I wish Coleman nothing but the best over in Calgary. So it'll be exciting to see. He's back in red, by the way. Back in those red uniforms because he played for the Devils before. But Coleman's a bummer to see go. But hopefully he has a good career over there in Calgary.
Chris, man, what do you got to say about Blake Coleman and maybe if there's, other than the diving Superman's outstretched goal, which obviously was amazing, if any other? I mean, that's obviously number one on the list. But is there any in the top 3 of memories you got for Coleman?
It's got to be that one, only because I was at that game and that was my first ever Stanley Cup game. So that one's going to be in my memory forever for sure. Just seeing that live, looking at the guy next to me and both of our mouths just completely dropped open to the floor. We literally had the same face. We both looked at each other, high-fived each other, went crazy. Couldn't believe it happened. So that memory to me will always stick in my head. It was a huge goal, huge momentum swing. And it just proved what he really brought to the team, the tenacity, the hustle, to give it all, do what it takes to win the cup. And, back-to-back Stanley Cups for him, for a guy we traded for from New Jersey. He definitely came over and played a huge, huge role that, I had no idea who he was at the time when we got him. I looked him up and I was like, yeah, he'll be all right. He'll settle in. But man, he blew my expectations away. I think he blew a lot of people's expectations away. Had some really clutch goals for us in the 2 years he was here. So it's sad to see him go. Business is business once again. So I wish him, I definitely wish him nothing but the best up there in Calgary. Enjoy the snow, man. Enjoy the snow.
I'll bring up two more guys, and then that'll be it. The first of which is going to be yet another guy going to Canada, and that is Luke Schenn, defensive guy who got a 2-year deal for just under $1 million, which might have been affordable for the Lightning, but I think it might be time just to move on from Luke Schenn. He's kind of been up and down. But especially maybe with Bogosian coming back, it's kind of like fills the same role, same statistics, and maybe some guys just wanted Bogosian more than Shin. I guess we'll start with you, Chris. Luke Shin, man, are you disappointed to see Luke Shin in a different sweater this year?
The number one Luke Shen fan.
Not at all. Goodbye, Luke Shen. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Come on.
See you around, man. Thanks for the memories. Whatever memories those were, committing penalties or doing something stupid.
Chris.
Nah, just kidding. Nah, he filled in. I don't have much to say about him. Not a fan. He had some good games. He filled in a little bit when needed to, but yeah, I'm glad he's gone. I don't really have much to say other than that. See you later, Luke Shin. Don't turn around.
Whatever, man.
Don't look back.
Whatever, man. No, please, Jake, restore the good name of Luke Shin in the halls of RBLR here. Do you have any thoughts on Luke Shin going to Vancouver and? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if Luke Shin just kind of didn't want to stick around, or if it just was one of those things that he just didn't get the opportunity to re-sign here.
I think it was cap is to get the opportunity because even a guy like Luke Shen, his low contract can even be too much. You look at the Lightning and all the signings they made. They were all very minor. 90% of them were under $1 million deals.
Yeah,
so they had a couple players they signed at $1 million, but they just couldn't afford him.
Yeah.
And Luke Shen is one of those guys that most people will forget about. Let's be honest. People remember Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow, Yanni Gore, Tyler Johnson. Most people aren't going to remember Luke Shen, but he played a big role. It's like how the Lightning, people have talked about the Lightning being a really good culture right now in this organization, how they brought out all of their rookies to lift the cup when they had won it and brought him out to take the Eastern Conference Finals picture. Luke Shen involved in all of that. He did a lot more than some of those other guys, but he filled in when the Lightning needed him to, and he was able to play a gritty role when the Bolts needed him for that as well. So, I think he's a really underappreciated guy. And I think Chris needs to put some more respect on his name. He's a Stanley Cup champion, baby. But no, all fun here. But yeah, Luke Shen, definitely an underappreciated guy. And, it won't kill us now that he's gone with Bogosian stepping in. He's going to be, he's basically the Luke Shen 2.0.
Okay. And do we have similar feelings about Christopher Gibson? Chris Gibson flying away across the state to the Florida Panthers. Obviously not a huge role with the Lightning, and the couple games that he got weren't very memorable in a good way. Unfortunately, just being a goalie here, you're not going to get a lot of playing time anyway. And maybe the Lightning didn't want to. Even though he is a league minimum kind of guy salary wise, maybe they just kind of wanted a little bit more veteran backup goaltending. Chris, am I on the right path here, or do you have something different about Chris Gibson leaving us?
No, I think it's just I don't think we'll miss him at all. Like you said, the goalies aren't going to get much time here unless your name's Vasi. So the couple of games I saw him in, I wasn't impressed. Obviously, he didn't get that much playing time, but the games he did, I didn't see anything special to re-sign him or keep him around. I think signing Elliott's pretty much all we needed, is barring any injuries, obviously. But I don't think we'll miss him, and I don't really think it's too big of a deal that he's gone.
Okay. Now, of course, I'm saying this in terms of hockey. I'm sure I don't know these guys personally. Obviously, I don't want anyone to lose their job or whatever. But I'm sure he's doing fine in Florida. But Jake, is Brian Elliott, you think, an upgrade to Gibson? Or we were kind of already talking about McElhinney. But did the Bolts do the right thing here, or should they have kept Gibson in house?
I think they definitely did what the right thing was. Gibson is definitely Elliott is definitely an upgrade over Gibson for sure. I think, although Elliott's more of a replacement for McElhinney, who we talked about earlier. And I like Gibson. I like Elliott, who brings a lot of veteran experience. So Gibson is a guy who didn't get to play too much here, as Chris mentioned. So he's just a minor depth guy that played in the organization, played for the AHL squad, which can be easily filled with draft picks the Lightning bring in and change the door. So, he wasn't able to find his stride here in Tampa. Hopefully he can down in Sunrise, but his time was up here down in Tampa. And it's not a huge deal for the Lightning, especially as Chris mentioned, we've got our goaltender and backup goaltender set and ready to go.
Well, what is a huge deal, a very huge deal, is you, the listener, listening to us. We can ask you to do one more thing. You've gone almost 45 minutes listening to us talk. Why not get this right in your inbox as soon as we upload it? Go ahead and, if you're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever, hit that little subscribe button, hit that little like button. That way, as soon as this gets put on the interwebs, it shows up on whatever platform you use. Also, if you're on social media, on Twitter, we're getting more followers every single day. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, just look us up at RBLR Sports. That is at RBLR Sports. We tweet out a lot of different things, and there's even more to come in the future. So, Jake, final thoughts before we wrap today's episode up?
I was pretty happy with all the free agency moves that we made. Got some new depth guys to come and help join us, round out that bottom six. I'm looking forward to see how they can perform here in Tampa, and hopefully they can join everybody else who's been having a lot of fun at our boat parades, and we can do another one more time for a potential three-peat. But I'm looking forward to the season. The season's going to be a lot of fun, as we mentioned in our last episode, back to that full 82-game schedule. So really looking forward to this season. Should be a lot of fun, and looking forward to seeing a lot of these new guys in Lightning Blue.
Yeah, and I think next week maybe we'll do our first real look. Now that the roster is pretty much set. I mean, it's pretty much what we're going to see. You tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think it's pretty much what we've got.
Oh yeah, definitely for the most
year.
part, it's ready.
All right, so I think we can get into kind of what have you done for us lately? What are they missing? What are we expecting out of next year? And this very, very early look at the roster. But Chris, your floor, man. We'll give you the last word. Go ahead and give us your final thoughts and give us a go Bolts to get out of here, big guy.
Guys, there's football tonight, so let's shout out to the NFL real quick.
Whoa.
We got some a little bit of football tonight, so this will be this is the upcoming first Sunday with football for the rest of the season. So I think that's pretty cool. We're rolling into Bucks time, which is awesome. So shout out to the NFL for coming back tonight. I know everyone's excited about that. Preseason, but I'll take some sports and some football. So looking forward to watching that. And obviously, I think the Lightning have done pretty good so far this offseason for the amount of money and the cap space we have. So I'm looking forward to speaking next week and looking forward to the season, man. I miss hockey already. Like I said, it was nice to enjoy a couple weeks of no stress and a little more sleep, but I'm ready to roll back into hockey season in full stress mode. So go Bolts, baby.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.